Round 3 for the evening. On the left we have the one and only Netherlands Jordy on Gruul lands. Now, we have seen Jordy's Gruul lands plenty of times on the channel already. Playing your typical punishing fires, your Valakut explorations, overall mostly a controlling deck, but definitely having some velocity behind it. And Jordy is definitely a very proficient player of the deck. His opponent for this round is making his debut on the channel with a deck that is also making its debut on the channel. We haven't actually had a food chain yet, so it will be interesting to see that go down. We have Jordy starting with a Taiga and a Mox Diamond discarding Maze of Ith. Maze of Ith not going to be the most useful card just yet. Could end up being relevant somewhere down the line if that ends up being the thing. But we'll have to wait and see. Sven, worth mentioning, is on a mulligan to 6. But a combo deck usually make good use of a mulligan. You have Sylvan Library coming down for Sven. That's also going to help a lot against mitigating the mulligan. And a Force of Will on crop rotation is also going to do a bit of work here. Sacrificing a land being a cost for the crop rotation. So, yeah, getting that countered is one of the worst feelings in the game, definitely. Now, for those of you who may be unaware of the food chain combo, you use the titular food chain, which is on screen now, to to exile a creature that you are able to cast from exile. Usually that's either a what's the Eldrazi called? Completely forgot the name, and I have a deck list that doesn't have it. Eternal Scourge? Yeah. And then just keep casting it again, because food chain makes more mana than the creature's actually worth, so you can just keep playing the creature, get infinite mana that you can then spend on creatures. Oh right, it's either Eternal Scourge or it's Mist Hollow Griffin. Both of those work. Mist Hollow Griffin actually a little bit better because it's also blue for the effect of Force of Will, helping you protect your combo. So it's just generally not dying in Legacy. So you have infinite mana that you can use on creatures specifically, which usually amounts to Walking Ballista. Hydroid Krasis is a more recent pickup for the deck. And while I'm explaining the deck, Jordy decides, you know what, I'm not going to give you time for the combo, and just attacks Sven for game. Dark Depths, despite being mostly a grindy control deck, can very easily just crop rotate into a Dark Depths and just kill you. Very, very dangerous deck at times. Though definitely you lose out on the benefit of having a bunch of basics. But I think that is very much a worthwhile trade-off for a deck like this. Now Sven in game 2 again on a mulligan to 6. Starting us off with a Bird of Paradise. Jordy responds with Exploration. Explore. Let's explore. Which one of the two was it again? Exploration, right? Yeah, it's Exploration. Pretty good. Gonna play an Ancient Tomb and a turn 1 Sphere of Resistance. That is going to put a bit of a damper on Sven's combo here. Speaking of the sphere, what kind of sideboard cards are we looking for here? From Jordy's side, we might expect some blasts. Fire Blast, Red Blast. Well, we are already seeing the sphere, of course. Maybe Force of Vigor? Maybe not the best thing to be doing, but not necessarily the worst thing. We'll have to see. Brainstorm coming out for Sven here. And thinking of... yeah, is going to play a duel. Does have a fetch, interestingly enough. So, wants at least one of the cards on top of his deck right now. Possibly both of them. Interesting. I wonder what he found here. Meanwhile, Jordy playing Wasteland and Rashad Port is going full on the mana base of Sven here. Gonna waste the tropical island and then try to port the volcanic island. And that combined with the sphere of resistance is going to put pretty big break here on the combo deck. Potentially very dangerous. Let's see how this turns out. Now, from the food chain side of things, what can we expect? Let's see. Possibly some artifact removal. Though, that kind of depends on what kind of answers you have for a sphere of resistance. It's possible that Sven was counting on just countering it, or may have some form of just getting it off the board regardless. We'll have to see. And again, the food chain deck could, in theory, just play a more mid-rangey style, I guess. Just play some creatures, start beating. Not ideal, especially when Jordy is threatening Merit Lage. Not a brainstorm after a quick shuffle for Sven here. Cards to the top. Again, getting ported. And Jordy just showing the controlling side of his deck right now quite well. We have Misty Rainforest coming out here. Is holding up a brainstorm for the end step. Not the best spot for Sven to be in right now. Going to shuffle after the last brainstorm and probably going to brainstorm once more. I would imagine. Didn't quite catch what the rest of Sven's hand was. Nor Jordy's, unfortunately. But from Jordy's side, we can probably guess it's either lands or a crop rotation. If it's crop rotation, that's pretty bad for Sven here. I see Ponder, Walking Ballista, and I think that is the Mist Hollow Griffin. Yeah. Really dark art on the Mist Hollow Griffin, I have to say. Sven is going to put back Ballista, Mist Hollow Griffin. Not really the cards he wants here. I mean, he's going to have to draw one of them again. For sure. The other one he could shuffle away with the Ponder if he wanted to. Going to keep the Walking Ballista, it looks like. I mean, both of them aren't really great here, to be honest. That is a... oh, Oh, yeah. That is Manipulate Fate. Manipulate Fate. Allows you to exile 3 cards from your graveyard and then draw... 3 cards from your deck and then draw a card. 2 Mist Hollow Griffins and a Squee the Immortal. Another creature you can cast from exile. Another one-off, fun-off. I wonder why Squee over Eternal Scourge. It's not the first time I've seen anyone do it either, so there has to be a reason for it, I would imagine, but I have no idea what that reason is. No idea. But definitely a favorite of mine. It's a card that I have actually more reps than most would in Modern, specifically. Legacy, there's probably some people who have more reps with it. In Vintage, it's usually the other Squee, the one that goes to your hand, because it does some fun shenanigans with Bazaar of Baghdad. But specifically this one. For those wondering, I play a mono red Tremors deck in Modern every once in a while, and right now that includes Squee as just a way of just continuously reactivating my Enter the Battlefield triggers. Because you can have one on the field and then cast the other one, use the legendary rule to put one of them in the graveyard, and you just 3 mana, trigger all ATB effects. Pretty fun little combo there. Choke coming down for Jordy here. Going to turn off the islands of Sven, and the Rishadan Port gonna tap the forest. And Sven in a bit of trouble here. Is going to have to fetch to be able to do anything here. I would imagine Sven not fetching an island here if he can. Yes, he can. And you can just use your Birds of Paradise for the blue to keep casting Ponders, Brainstorms, anything you need to get out of this. I would imagine there's still a way for Sven to get out from under this. Though I'm not sure what it is at this time. Gravedigger's Cage and Double Force being found here by Sven. Would imagine that's a shuffle. Gravedigger's Cage is interesting. Not quite sure why that's there. I'm wondering what Sven is thinking of hitting with that. Because most of these cards come back to the hand first if you're trying to play them from the graveyard. Like Life from the Loam and Punishing Fire both go to the hand first and then are cast. And you're not really casting anything from the library. So, unless I'm missing something, which is very much possible, it's very much possible. I'm not quite sure what the Gravedigger's Cage does against Jordy here. Meanwhile, we have Sylvan Library coming down for Jordy here, just continuing to bury Sven in interaction here. I'm actually missing a bit of damage here. Jordy already at 9. Life total not going to matter all that much. Well, it might now with an Ice Fan Quaddle. Does kind of deny Jordy a couple draws here. But not ideal. Not ideal. Oh yeah, I missed the Ancient Tomb probably a couple times. Probably. You're already finding Urza's Saga off the Sylvan Library. Which means Jordy now has a fairly sizable clock. This Ice Fang Quaddle is going to have to do a bit of work here. Another Quaddle comes down. Now, worth mentioning, the Quaddles both do have Death Touch. So, Maze of Ith going to untap the one that could attack, that tried to attack. Overall, I'd say Jordy's still mostly the driver's seat here. But despite having a clock, it's not the fastest clock. I will say that. So worth remembering, even if you're not drawing the extra cards of the library, you can still use it to great effect if you are somehow able to shuffle your own deck. Which, do we have a... we don't have a fetch on the field right now. He could, in theory, Ghost Quarter himself, just get a shuffle off. Because maybe the Caracas isn't really doing anything. Maybe you don't really want the Ancient Tomb dealing a bunch of damage. There are choices here for sure. Well, Sven is definitely pressuring here. I can stop the life total. Well, Sven is definitely pressuring. I wouldn't say he's in a healthy spot per se. Jordy can still just rip a crop rotation. Whatever part he's missing. Or just go on the construct beats of Ursa Saga. Decides to use the Ghost Quarter to take out one of the forests that is keeping Sven alive right now. Mountain comes in return. Crop rotation would also be a great draw just to get a Thespian stage on the field before you have to get rid of the Ursa Saga, and then the constructs start overwhelming Sven fairly quickly. Right now it is a 2-2. I would assume Jordy going to make a 3-3 out of it. Looks like he found a Dark Depths. Mox Diamond. Not sure what the third card was. Saga triggers on stack. It's going to make a construct. And then he lets the Ursa Saga go to 3. Yeah, there we go. And fight an artifact with manacle 0 or 1. No X's. Going to find a Mox Diamond and is going to let it die, it looks like. So Jordy likes what he has in hand, doesn't want to get rid of it quite yet. I'm thinking... Let me read Pithing Needle real fast. Yeah, Food Chain is a mana ability, so Pithing Needle wouldn't actually work here. Which is unfortunate. That would have definitely helped a bit. That would have helped quite a bit. To be fair, it's not the Food Chain that's going to kill you now, but it might. It might, definitely. Dark Depths coming down. Looks like there's another exploration. I think I saw a Red Elemental Blast in Jordy's hand, as well as a third card that I didn't quite catch. So, Jordy still solidly in the driver's seat. I think... Yeah, the construct attack wasn't blocked. Sven needs to find something to try and force a game 3, but it's not looking too good for him right now. Second Scalding turn. Waddle going to attack. Yes, well, you might as well. Actually, thinking about it, Jordy could decide to not remove the Quaddle from combat and just... No, there would still be the Birds of Paradise as a blocker, I guess. Yeah, at some point Sven is going to have to start blocking, and at that point... Jordy has pretty much closed out the game. Again, as long as the Sphere of Resistance is on the field, the Food Chain combo does not work. I think I see a... That might have been a Reclamation Sage, which makes sense because these decks usually play Imperial Recruiter. I think it can find... Let's see. Imperial Recruiter? Power 2 or less, so... Reclamation Sage, yes, that's definitely a possible find here. So it would make sense for Sven to play a Reclamation Sage. 4 mana, we might be looking at it. Yes, we are. That is an old bordered Reclamation Sage. Very nice, very nice. Going to target Choke. Trying to unload some of the pressure off of his mana base. Doesn't necessarily give him the Food Chain combo though. The second sphere being drawn for Jordy here. Looks like he is going to play it. Yes, he is. So we are now under double sphere. Oh, there's too many spheres. There we go. Nice. Masterwork. Sphere of Resistance. Another artifact means both constructs are now 4/4. And Sven, with his hands on his head, thinking, what can I do here? Doesn't necessarily have to block, though That would mean he would have to after that, though. He has put himself on 10. I think he's supposed to be at 9. This damage happens simultaneously, so when the other construct comes in, it's still a 4-4. Right? At least I think that is how it works. I was pretty sure that Sven was at 13 there. After the fetch of the Scalding Tarn, but... maybe, I don't know. So Sven, having answered one of the constructs, not out of the woods yet, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. Gotten his mana back, and is going to need it with both those spheres on the field. Going to remove the Reclamation Sage from combat. You already go to 6. Just doing the math. Not sure. Oh, he's looking at Exile. You thinking of maybe playing a Griffin here? Just a 6 mana 3/3 with flying? Yes, he is. Honestly, I don't hate it. I don't hate it because it is definitely going to have to be the target for Maze of Ith. And I think that means Jordy is no longer able to attack with the construct. Because now Sven actually has a clock worth considering. A 3rd sphere of resistance, Rishan port, and something green for Jordy here. Not a crop rotation, I think. Didn't look like it. Not sure which card that is. Yeah, not quite sure which card. Might be Force of Vigor, actually. Just kind of looking at it, not 100% sure. But that would make sense because it looks like Jordy is not interested in drawing it at this point. Wondering whether he wants the sphere or the port. And looks like sphere went to the top. Worth mentioning, Jordy's still holding Pyroblast, an exploration that's not really doing anything, and I still don't quite know what the 4th card is. Mana. Thinking of Pyroblasting Griffin, I think. Yes, it's going to Pyroblast the Griffin. That would allow him to keep attacking without threatening his life total here. Notably, the Griffin not castable from the graveyard. Just exile. Going to attack, put Sven to 7. Maze of Ith going to turn off the Rex Sage once more, and Jordy is off to 5. The 2nd Griffin coming down now for Sven. This is actually looking like a pretty close game. It was looking like Jordy had a pretty tight grip on the game, but wasn't able to really find a threat to keep going, unfortunately. Rishadenport now the draw for the turn. Once again considering casting Sphere. Which would grow the construct again. Does cast a Sphere. Construct is now a 4/4 and decides to attack with it. Sven decides not to block here. And both players are a really low life total. Basically, if going to untap this Hologriffin, and then looks like we are taking 3, going to 2. Basically, if just keeping Jordy afloat here for an incredibly long amount of time. But there is not much wiggle room for either player at this point. Something's got to give. So 3 extra. Ballista for 2. That would be lethal. And Jordy says, yes, that is game 2. Looks like it was a Force of Vigor. By the way, worth mentioning, the last card in Jordy's hand. Really close game 2. Good stuff. Let's go to game 3. Actually, a quick correction. It seems, looking at the time left in the round, both players have decided to just call it a draw and not try to go for game 3. So, this match will stay undecided at 1-1.